Greetings to you and welcome to this episode of Grace Podcast. I'm Timothy Muse. I'll be your host as we spend this time together today. It's a joy to be with you. I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for making this podcast a part of your routine. And I certainly, as always, want to thank you for being on this journey. It is incredible that you're here. It is incredible that you're investing in yourself. Good for you. Kudos as you continue to grow and advance. I'm so pleased that you're here. I'm so pleased that you're on this journey. And I'm honored that you allow this podcast to be part of it, even if it's just a little bit, even if it's just a little piece. Thank you for being here. Thank you for using this podcast and using this information. If it is helpful, if this podcast is helpful for you, please put it out there. Share it out there on your social media feeds. LinkedIn, X, Instagram, Facebook. I post on them all. It'd be great to see it. Please tag me in it so I can see where you're at. I really would like to see where you're listening from. If you're on one of the listening platforms, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Amazon Music, then follow us, give us a rating and review. Every positive rating and review tells the platform that people are listening. And if you want to reach out to me directly, GraceLifeCoaching.com is the website. GraceLifeCoaching.com, that's where you can get a hold of me. That's where you can figure out all the things that I'm doing. If you want to do some coaching, if you want to do some Reiki, some sound baths, some meditation, whatever it is that you'd like to do, I'm there. GraceLifeCoaching.com. It's got all my contact information. Please reach out to me. Let's see what we can do together. We've been on this journey, on this path of talking about how this process of moving from winter to spring and what spring brings can really reveal to us and help us to grow. When we look at our environment around us and we use the tools of our environment, it really helps us not only to feel the natural growth, but to see how growth happens around us. So we've been in here and I want to keep going in that. I want to keep walking forward in this process as we get closer and closer to spring. Even though I woke up this morning to a couple inches of snow and woke up yesterday morning to a couple inches of snow, spring seems like it's never going to show up, but it will. It always does. The seasons always change. I think that's a really important thing that if I haven't said enough, I want to make sure that I say the seasons always change. The season will always change into the next season. It's sometimes it's a matter of patience and waiting and putting your head down and getting through it, but the season will always change and spring will come soon enough. And with spring comes early growth. And that's really where I want to go. I want to talk today about something that people rarely talk about, but everyone experiences. We all experience it at some point in time. How to protect your early progress. How to protect your early progress. When new growth finally appears. When the first sprouts break through the soil, they're fragile. They're small. They're not weak. They're not incapable. They're just young. And young growth needs nurturing, protection, consistency, and care. And that's really what I want to talk about today when we look at how spring works and how our growth works. Nourishing what's growing, protecting early progress. That's kind of our theme for today. You know, we're going to explore how to safeguard your new habits and new mindsets and new boundaries and new confidence and new direction so that you don't wither in the face of pressure, doubt, or distraction. Those are the things that early growth needs to be protected from. Look, when a seed first sprouts, it doesn't look strong. It's tiny, it's thin, it's delicate, it's exposed. It's easily affected by wind and shade, cold, and too much sun. But here's the secret. Here's the thing. Those early sprouts contain all the genetic information of the full mature plant. And the same is true for you. Your early progress works the same way. When you start a new habit, when you shift your mindset, when you set new boundaries, when you practice self-compassion, when you build a healthier routine, you begin healing, you return to hope, you change your emotional patterns, it all feels small. It all feels minor, but inside that small beginning is the entire blueprint of the person you're becoming. That's why it's so important. The sprout might look fragile, but the potential is enormous. The small habit might look fragile, but the potential of what that habit can lead to is enormous. The process of healing, the beginning, might look fragile, but the potential is enormous in who you can become. And it's so important to protect this early progress because early progress can feel so disruptive. It can feel so different. It can help someone feel so vulnerable in it. When we start something new, our brains haven't built strong neural pathways yet. You know, our brain's like, wait a minute, we're doing something new. That's not what we do here. That's not what we do here. Your routines haven't fully formed yet. Your confidence hasn't stabilized in the new. Your identity hasn't caught up, and it needs to. Your environment may not support the change. We've talked about this before. The structures around you may not support the change, and people around you might not understand it yet. This is the most common point where most people quit. Not because they lack ability, but because they misinterpret fragility as failure. Fragility is not failure. Fragility is normal. Everything starts small. The giantest of sequoia trees that grows out in the West, those hundreds of feet tall and massive, they don't just like show up like that one day. Everything starts small. Everything starts fragile, and fragility isn't failure. Fragility is normal. I want you to hear that, because when we do new things, we feel very vulnerable. We feel very fragile. And we think that feeling of fragility is failure. It's not. It's normal. It is a normal part of the growth process. Everything that grows starts out fragile. The biggest fire starts out with the smallest flame. The most passionate love starts out with the smallest attraction. So fragility is not failure. It's normal. And when we can embrace it as normal and work to protect it, that's when it can grow into something huge and massive. Now, there are 4 places that I want to raise up that often create early disruption within the process. Understanding them makes it a little bit easier to protect yourself in the early process. The first one is being overwhelmed. When you've changed one habit, your brain all of a sudden says, should we change everything? I mean, we changed one thing. Should we change everything? He stopped drinking soda. So do we need to start eating kale and get rid of, all of the carbs? Do we need to change everything? That leads to burnout, because all of a sudden we become overwhelmed. Well, one thing, is we have to change everything. We have to change everything at once. No. Early growth requires small steps, not big leaps. So when we can fight that and say, I'm going to do one thing, and it's going to be small, and it's going to be fragile, but it's going to be normal, and then we're going to grow. And one thing is going to lead to another thing. It's going to lead to another thing. Early growth requires small steps. Don't try to do everything at once, because it does lead to being overwhelmed. Another thing that can really disrupt our early progress is comparison. You might see someone who's further along and think, I'm not doing enough. Remember, I talked before about comparing your chapter 1 with someone's chapter 20. This crushes motivation. It really does. It's like, oh, look, I see someone who's meditating for an hour a day and I can only meditate for 30 seconds. What am I doing wrong? Nothing. You're not doing anything wrong. They're just further along in the process. But if you sat down and you talked to them, they would probably say, I was you at one point in time. I couldn't meditate for more than 30 seconds. I couldn't meditate for more than a minute. One of the things that people say about podcasting is that most podcasters quit after 6 or 7 episodes. Well, you've been here long enough to know that I didn't do that. I just put my head down and went through it. Was it crushing in comparison at the beginning? Yeah, I'd listen to people who had podcasts that had 2,000-3,000 episodes, and I'm like, wow, I only got like 4. But that comparison trap can really crush motivation. No, this is progress, and progress is personal, not competitive. If you want to meditate for an hour a day, that's great. It's going to take you time to get there. So allow that time to happen. Allow it to happen naturally. It will grow, but it needs to allow naturally. Another place that can really distract is old patterns. Old patterns resurfacing. Look, our brains love familiarity. They crave familiarity. And so old patterns, this is one of the reasons why it's so hard to break old patterns, even if we know those old patterns are bad for us, because our brain loves familiarity. So as you grow, your old comfort zones will try to pull you back. They will. Those procrastination moments, that self-doubt, that people-pleasing, or that perfectionism thinking, or that avoidance, or that negative self-talk. This doesn't mean you're failing. When your old patterns are trying to resurface and drag you back, this is not failure. This is actually growth. This is actually where growth is happening, because you're challenging those old patterns. It means you're transitioning. It means you're moving into new patterns. And new patterns, they take time, they take energy, they take investment. And they take discipline, and they're going to take time. Look, if you've been thinking for, let's say you're 35 years old, and you've been thinking for the last 30 years that you're not beautiful. all right? Or you're not good enough. That pattern is way deep into your neural pathways, way deep into your thinking. So you're trying to undo that. Actually, you're trying to abandon that thinking. Well, you're trying to abandon something that you've done for 30 years. That's a hard thing to do. That takes work and discipline and confronting those old patterns. So old patterns resurfacing can be a way that distract our new growth. The other one I want to raise up is external distractions. Life will test us constantly. If we had the perfect world, we lived alone, we had all the money we needed, we had no distractions whatsoever, we could just work on us, then it would be a lot easier. You ever go away on a retreat or something of that nature, and you're away for 3 or 4 days, and family obligations and phone and work are all put aside, and it's like, wow, this is so easy. This is so incredible. That's because you're living in a world without external distractions. But life will test us constantly. Work demands, family schedules, unexpected stress, social commitments. These aren't enemies. We don't want to see them as enemies to our process, but they can pull our focus. Early growth needs intentional protection from distractions. It needs intentional protection from distractions, which means that you need to work on those distractions and put up boundaries. Again, this is where new habits and new boundaries come in, because early growth needs intentional protection from all of those distractions. And one of the ways to overcome those distractions, one of the ways to really work through them, is going through a new mindset. A mindset shift. Again, we live in a world that wants production. Fruit. Make the fruit. But the fact is, early growth isn't about growing fruit. It's about strengthening the roots. It's about strengthening your root structure. That's what's happening here. Not producing results, but strengthening your root structure. Too many people expect fruit before the root system is developed. But nature doesn't work that way. I mean, again, think about it. You're growing a tomato plant, and you put the seeds in the ground in the spring. You can't go to bed at night and wake up the next morning expecting a full plant with tomatoes, or just tomatoes growing out of the dirt. No, you need to build the root structure, build the stalk, and then the leaves, and then the buds, and then the fruit. That's how it works. The plant invests more of its energy early on underground. That is the power of it. The plants in spring are investing in underground energy, the anchoring, the absorbing of nutrients, the stabilizing, the building structures, the preparing for storms. In your life, that's what we need to do when we start to grow. We need to start building our root structure. Because when we build a good, strong base, as the stalk starts to grow, then we have that resiliency. We need to shift our mindset from fruit to root. And your roots may look like emotional regulation, confidence, self-trust, healthier boundaries, consistent small habits, belief in your future, the ability to pause instead of react. These are powerful root structures that nobody sees, that are all done internally, underground. These are the roots of your spring. If you build them, the fruit will come naturally. That's the powerful thing. You don't have to manipulate the tomato plant to get the fruit. Build the root structure, the fruit will come. But if you rush them, if you rush those things, then you create instability. If the plant grows too fast, then the plant can't handle the weight of the fruit. Slow is not weak, my friends. It is wise. And when we look at the pattern of spring, we see wisdom in the slowness of growth. The seed, the roots, the stalk, the flowers, the buds, the fruit. That takes time. It takes time, it takes patience, and it takes a little bit of nourishment. So here's what I'd like to think about. The art of gentle discipline. Gentle discipline. How do we encourage and incorporate these things? We do it through gentle discipline. This is not harsh discipline. This is not rigid discipline. And I want to make sure that I'm clear that discipline, though it comes down as a bad word, isn't a bad word. When we think discipline, we think time out because we spoke bad words or what have you. No, that's not the kind of discipline I'm talking about. I'm talking about things that we commit to, actions and beliefs that we commit to and we lean into even when it's hard. And a gentle discipline doesn't have to be something that we berate ourselves or beat ourselves up over. A gentle discipline is something we can lean into. A gentle discipline is calm, it's steady, it's consistent, it's kind, it's forgiving, and it's grounded. Okay? So it can sound something like, let's just do this for 5 minutes. Progress over perfection, one step at a time. Consistency matters more than intensity. These are some of the things that I've talked about in the previous episodes. We will adjust, not abandon. It's okay to be new at this. Gentle discipline creates sustainable growth. Harsh discipline creates burnout. Choose the gentle approach. Allow the work that you're doing to grow with good, strong roots and create good, strong fruit. You know, one of the things that I hear now that's going to start happening around this time of year is everybody's going to be working on getting their beach body. I'm air quoting beach body. You know, we got 6, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, 3 months before you're going to the beach. So now we really got to hunker down and lose those 25 pounds that were gained, over the winter time. And maybe they do it, but it's not sustainable. They get the body they want for the beach. They go to the beach to show off. Ooh, this is great. And then they go right back to the old patterns. And they go back and forth. Gain 25 pounds, lose 25 pounds. Gain 25 pounds, lose 25 pounds. Progress, gentle discipline. You may not be able to lose those 25 pounds in the 3 months that you're goal setting, but you can lose the 25 pounds and keep them off. Not because you want to look good on the beach, because you want to feel better. Gentle discipline over a long period of time. Let's just do it for 5 minutes. Because if we pound ourselves to get that 25 pounds off of the beach, then when we get back from the beach, we don't have any energy or desire to keep the discipline going. Gentle discipline. Consistency matters over intensity. Doing something over and over again, even if it is small, will build a repetition and strength that will have far better fruit than intensity. So that's really the thing, entering into those gentle disciplines. And understanding that those gentle disciplines create the power of nurturing. And one of the things that we need to do is have a good emotional nurturing. That's what helps us grow. Remember, you have a small plant, it needs to nurture. That's what the roots do. They begin to nurture. And we need to nurture. We need to nurture our early progress. We need to nurture our early growth. And there's a couple of essential things that we need. We need encouragement. Not from others, but from yourself. The inner voice must shift from critic to coach. It has to. Because if the inner voice is a critic, then that new growth, which is so fragile and vulnerable, will wither away because that inner critic, you're not doing good enough. Look at you. You could only meditate for 1 minute today. You're ... No, we need encouragement from our inner voice, not a critic. So we want to shift our inner narrative. We want to replace I'm not doing enough with I'm planting something new. I'm growing, and growth takes time. That's where we get the encouragement from. Not from the outside world. We need to get it from ourselves. It doesn't matter if 1,000 people tell you you're doing a great job. If you don't believe you're doing a great job, then you're not going to move forward. You need that encouragement internally. Repetition. Repetition is very nurturing. Repetition grows roots. Notice, when a flower plants a root structure, it doesn't keep putting out new roots. It grows a root and then it grows the root deeper. The repetition of the same root going deeper and stronger. Repetition, small, consistent actions make early growth stable. So we want to have that repetition. Safety. Safety is a really important thing for nurturing. Your nervous system must feel safe to change. You cannot be in the sympathetic nervous system, that fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. You will not change there. You have to move to the parasympathetic, where you have the ability and the growth to change. That means less self-judgment, getting away from that nervous system judgment, fewer impossible standards. How many standards do we set that are just so impossible? More compassion and less comparison, more grounding and less out there in the world, less overwhelming. Safety is so nurturing. And the last thing I want to raise up is rest. Rest isn't the opposite of growth. I need you to hear this. Rest isn't the opposite of growth. Rest is the requirement for growth. A well-rested mind learns faster. A well-rested body adapts better. A well-rested heart heals deeper. Rest is not an option. It is a requirement. We so often think, when I get it all done, I will rest. No, I rest so that I can get it all done. That's what's important. Now, there are some negative influences that are going to roll in here, and I want to touch on that just a little bit. There are some negative influences. People around us, structures around us can become negative influences. You're not imagining it. Growth triggers reactions in others, not because they want you to fail, but because your change challenges their comfort zone. This is a really important thing. And this is a lot of places where small growth or new growth can start to crumble because growth challenges people. People get challenged when you grow. It challenges their comfort zones. You may hear, why are you doing that? Or you've changed, or you don't need to do all that, or you're being dramatic, or you'll quit anyway. Protect your growth by remembering you do not need permission to grow. You do not need permission to grow. You don't need anybody's permission to grow. This discomfort is not my direction. You can say, I'm not going in this direction, this discomfort. People grow at different speeds. Stay rooted in your pace, not somebody else's. And don't let somebody else's comfort zone drag you out of your growth process. Really, really important. Really, really important. Don't let someone else's comfort zone drag you out of your growth process, because people around us may not like what they see because it challenges their comfort zones. It challenges their place. Okay? So hold on to that and remember that could be a place where you could get some pretty strong pushback, those negative influences, not because they want you to fail, but because they're challenged by your growth. My friends, I want you to remember this. Early growth is sacred, okay? So don't rush it. Don't compare it. Don't judge it. Don't abandon it. Protect it and nurture it. Stay patient with it and stay consistent. Every strong plant, every strong tree, every strong season begins with something small that someone had to protect. Your progress deserves the same care. Your progress deserves that same protection. This is about you growing. This is about you expanding. And if you're in an early stage and you want to protect it because it's vulnerable and fragile, but it has the blueprint to be something so incredible, don't give up. Don't give up at this place. Nurture that. Live into it and believe that who you want to become and who you're growing into being, it's there. It's just going to take a little bit of time and a little bit of patience and a little bit of practice and a little bit of discipline. Remind yourself of that. This isn't who I am. This is who I'm becoming, and who I'm becoming is going to be incredible. That's what I got for you today, my friends. If it's helpful, please share it out there. Out there on the social media platforms, listening platforms. If you want to reach out to me directly, GraceLifeCoaching.com is the website. I truly would love to hear from you. At Grace Life Coaching, we want you to be the best you.